Another powerful morning. Um, this is for because of the connection that my DNA antenna has with other DNA antenna friends that I have in my windows. So when I share what I experience, particularly in the morning, you can see how that works between other places that we're at, that we're experiencing, and then where we're at here, phasing in this density, what we experience at multiple densities, actually, when you have the full density and dimension levels of a matrix, if you will, at your disposal, and the full elemental command that is within that Cathara grid that is at your command, right? So now you're into the bioelectrical chemistry side of things with electrodynamically linked particles or molecules of consciousness, and how that relates specifically to being a monad or a monomer, and then polymers. Polymer meaning many. That's why politics, many ticks. And what does it tick? Many ticks of the clock? Well, it can also mean, what does it tick? Well, I've had a girl pull a tick out of my back when I was up in Oregon, right? So a tick can mean different things to different people, right? Based on the alphabet soup of those symbols that represent the language of fire letters, consciousness, that is experiencing itself by virtue of the numbers that are related to the frequency of that symbol, which is a map rate of the frequency and thus the code, right, of deciphering the encryption and decryption of maneuvering your consciousness around different places in the cosmos when you're experiencing the one. So when you're experiencing the one, which is what love is, goes on forever, gifting electrons at the highest rate of speed, then you're with the divine one. First monad, the first crystal star, the first crystal spiral, the first creative waveform expression that is free to express itself, right? Information technology self. The first self, the first cell, the first cell phone one, living cell, living membrane. So the beauty, if you will, when you think of it in supercomputer terms or eternal light terms, you realize what it means to be with the highest accelerator, which means you're not holding on to one electron, a unit of consciousness, an electron, right? So you represent the first electron. We represent the first electron, a mono, the first electron. So you're experiencing the first electron. And then you have protons and neutrons, right? So that the atoms naturally love to be in balance in order to do what? Seek the pathway of the least amount of work to experience absolute love. That simple is as simple does. Remember, what's his name? Forrest Gump. So I know when I first woke up, I was thinking about, for example, commodities, how everything gets commodified by inverters. So it's called testing the market. We're going to float something out there, right? And let's see if they gravitate to that. Oh, like a magnet. So if we present something in their mirror, right, which is now we're back to Mad Men, Madison Avenue, right, Wall Street. If we float this idea or this concept, which is based on a visual, we're going to present it to them so that in their mirror, they're now experiencing our mirror, what is projected to them. Let's see if they take. And that's the same as throwing a fishing line out. Cast that spell. Spelling bees. See, my arm going like this. Cast the line out there. Let's see if they grab this. Now you can get into the quantum probability function based on what? Past burn patterns. Oh, self-similarity. The collective consciousness. They're all gravitating to this. If we throw this out there, how long will it take before, for example, let's see here, I got an idea. I can build a cell phone network, putting up microwave towers, right? Instead of what I observed, which means this was not a coincidence that I observed this, in Siskiyou County, up in Northern California, right along Highway 96, State Highway 96, in a little place called Syad, which happens to be where the Pacific Crest Trail actually goes from, say, the Marble Mountains, beautiful place, by the way, and then goes up over a place called Red Butte, down into a dam that used to be there. I don't know what its status is now, but I was there in 1977, where Applegate Lake is, which is Applegate Dam. And so what I noticed was there were some folks that looked like the power company, but it was really the Ma Bell. And so they, you know what a big donut is? A big wheel, right? A spoked wheel that had, it probably looked like it was maybe four inches in diameter, that was orange tubing. So I stopped and I figured, okay, what are you guys doing, right? So I stopped and, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're putting in fiber optics. Oh, wow, fiber optics, huh? Yeah, like a nerve fiber optics. Well, you know how it is. These folks that live around here do not want microwave towers, 5G, 4G, interrupting their signals and their antennas. So if they want to get visual data, like on a screen, they've chosen to go underground, in which all that data is going underground, okay? And not using satellites and not using microwave towers to repeat the same signal. Right, now we're back to 1970 when I was at Station 18, which was the number of it, which is 9, right? Which was the Trabuco station when they were putting new programmable radios into the engines and lining up microwave repeaters to repeat that signal going all the way up and down California, see? So I'm thinking, well, okay, so these folks here in Siskiyou County, the folks that live there have the money. So in other words, they want internet access, right? And they want the visual information, which is represented by the mathematical geometric form in which they're experiencing the molecular space with their consciousness using fiber optics instead of microwave antennas and all the other high G stuff that relates to what? Oxygen levels. Wow. So, wow, you live up in Siskiyou County, you can get internet service without being damaged. Well, who are these folks that decided to have it? Well, Ashland's actually not that far away. And if you put into who these folks are with Applegate Dam, right, the underground stuff they have there, and if you travel up through, say, out of Medford, where all those folks that are in that town, they don't get fiber optic service, right? But you go further on out up into the rural areas, out where the wineries are, and you go up over the top of the mountain there and down on 96 that I just described, oh, they got fiber optic service there. Wow. Really? How come they weren't providing fiber optic service to everybody on the planet? That's a pretty logical question, right? See the differences that are taking place, and you just notice these things, you know? This was like, when did I notice this, Mom? I'm back in like 2010. I think it was right around 2010 when I noticed that. Whoa. And so the reason that this sort of cross-translates with electrodynamically linked libraries, which is the advantage and functionality of a monomer or a monopole, a monad, when it comes to what? Electrically dynamically linked libraries of molecular information. The spirit in the molecule, the spirit in the energy, the unit of consciousness that is experiencing itself connected to covalent bonds. Now we're back to polarity, right? The ping pong, binary linear, right? And the multiple functionality of being tree, of being a monopole. Higher functionality, higher multicellular density and dimension functionality. To experience more of what we're giving love to, right? Which is the expansion of what? A universe. The one that's within us. The one we experience in our mirror by virtue of what we are in here, which is our heart and our soul, the connection we have to the one. So I was thinking, for example, with synthetic polymers, and I've shared the story about my aunt's husband, who was Wallace B. Carruthers, worked for DuPont, and you get into nylons and dacrons and all the rest of that. and why they were rolling out all this synthetic crap, not just in the 50s, but particularly in the 60s, right? When you went from traditional cotton, most of what I grew up with when I was a kid, I was wearing mostly 100% cotton shirts that were sold by a Mormon company, right? That you find up in Utah and in Idaho, right? What is it? The Latter-day Saints? Church of Latter-day Saints? Latter-day, climbing the ladder. Now we're back into ladders. And all the different meanings that ladders can have that is cross-linked to other contextual, perceptual, visual information, vibration, and frequencies represented by the letters and symbols, back to the alphabet soup, right? But in this particular case, I'm reminded of in the early 1960s when I was exposed, the exposure, the light is exposing what we see in the camera of marijuana, right? MJs, we used to call it. And again, you have many different words. I used to call it street lingo. We're going to develop our own alphabet soup. So that, in other words, we're using language that is different than the language that you might find defined in context in any standard dictionary used by the English language. So that's what I call rearranging the tables, which are rearranging what? The water column tables. So we can make sense out of their convoluted language, right? And what that does to the language of vibration and Ki Ra Sha, right? How we play music. Mu, mua, mua, mu, mua. The language of light, real light, eternal love. So when I was growing up as a kid, and this is how we tie this into a commodity, what we call throw the bait. Remember the movie called Midway with Charlton Heston? Admiral, they took the bait. We got them in a trap. We got their consciousness trapped. They took the bait, Admiral. Now they're trapped by us. Because now they're dependent on us. Oh, dependent. Like codependency? Oh, now we're dependent on their mirror. Black mirrors. Now they're dependent on black mirrors. Knowing one from the other. A dead light mirror and a living light mirror. In living spirit with a soul arcing state of consciousness. Experiencing what love is. Experiencing the one. So when I was first introduced to marijuana, like I think it was 1963, somewhere right around in there, I remember amongst the folks that I was associated with how important seeds were. Because we had direct access. The group that I was with, which is not a coincidence, had direct access to farmers in Mexico and Central America. So there were two brands or two labels or two areas that are given names. One was called Oaxaca and the other was called Michoacan. Now, without getting into the history of mushroom shamans, okay? Mushroom shamans, and psychedelics and tryptamines and the DMT molecule and cannabis and all the rest of that and hemp, which is electrodynamically cross-linked libraries of what? Geometric and mathematical codes of frequencies and vibration of a DNA antenna. Now I'm experiencing that antenna. And how when Karen talked about heirloom seeds, so we remembered how important the seeds were that is related to the grade. Now you're into grade A and grade B and all the rest of that. So if you want to think of the original seed, the first seed, right? The first seed, the first creative waveform expression of a seed that's now going to grow because love is what's growing it, that is eternal love creation. You can see how this applies to what we call these special effects, special color effects, experiencing the plant, experiencing the seed, experiencing the consciousness to develop the codes and the frequencies represented by the seed that we're now experiencing as it was growing out of what love is. And so I remember that seeds were very important because we were looking for very specific seeds, okay, that were coming from those growers versus other growers like Monsanto, synthetics. So I remember, because we were aware of this, because this is how it works. If I'm in Madison Avenue and I'm an inverter, and I need to accumulate as many electrons as I can, because that's what I'm in the business of doing. I'm an inverter. I need to throw that spell out. I need to cast that line, see if you're going to grab it and take that bait. Now, once I know that you have an attraction to that bait, oh man, I just reeled you in. Because now what I can do is now I can play God with your state of consciousness, because I got you addicted. Now you got a codependent relationship with my state of consciousness. So now I've got all these labs, like Monsanto, that can do synthetic development with polymers, right? And we're going to develop a different strain. Oh, a different strain. Yeah. Using our lab, which is binary. Oh, so now we're going to develop this using artificial intelligence, which is binary sequences. Linear. Oh, so now we're into the polymer chains. Yeah, the chain reaction of polymers. And the difference between linear, binary polymers and being a monad. When it comes to seed, and it comes to seeded races. The first, the law of one. And so I remember what it was like, and I'll just give you a little story. The first time that I ever had Mishlicon, I actually got that out of Haight-Ashbury, and believe it or not, it was in San Francisco. And I think I took 2 hits off of that. We shared a joint. You know what a joint is? We used to call them pocket rockets. Okay? Rolling that up with zigzag, zigzag, the waveform vibration, the electrical wave, right? And we were getting ready to go across the Golden Gate Bridge. And we actually had an intended destination where we were supposed to go next, because the guy that we were with, and we went on a trip all the way up from Southern California, going all the way up to Northern California, because his dad owned a lot of machines that were at golf courses, right? So they're collecting coins, metal collectors. So they put the machines up, like golf ball cleaning machines, other vending machines like candy, peanuts, cigarettes. So his dad owned all these machines that were now in place for folks to put all their metal in. And so he would have his son using a van to drive up to all these golf courses to go empty out all those machines with all that coin, the coin of the realm, right? And that became his source of income. So when we got to Haight-Ashbury and we acquired some Mishlicon, we were supposed to be somewhere else later on that afternoon. We got lost. 2 hits of Mishlicon. By the time we got halfway across the Golden Gate Bridge, we lost all track of where we're at. La La Land. We ended up in Oakland. Okay? Crashed out in that van with somebody knocking on the window, which happened to be Oakland police. What are y'all doing here? Right? Energy molesters. Right? And it's not a coincidence that happened, was it? Break the wave, break the circle, right? Break the flow, right? Another NPC character, right? Another programmed unit. And something that I experienced this morning, which was a little meme that was put up there that comes out of, 4chan? 4chan, Fortran, transformation. And the word is called Anon. So A is number 1, which is divine propulsion system, the first accelerator, right? Going as fast as you can because you're not holding on to any energy. So you become a flow rate, like a flow rate diagram, right? Dipoles, right? Dipoles, receptors, D receptors, density and dimension receptors, right? The stereo receptor, right? The AM, PM grids, the I am what love is, it goes on forever, gifting electrons grid, right? Other matrices that are experiencing the eternal life creation. And what we experience here, because an anon is, and I will describe it for you because I'm an anon, okay? And that's called a non-programmable unit of consciousness. Oh, a non-programmable unit of consciousness. How does that work? Because before you experience the program, there's the pre-phase to the program, because you have at your command the full electromagnetic spectrum to use, which is the elemental command. So imagine that you have at your command all the elements that exist within the entire cosmos, because it stands to reason that the one certainly does. Because nothing happens faster than the one that the one doesn't already know. So the one's first. Right? That's what it started with. So the one knows. So that means that we have access to everything the one has access to. That's Cosmina. That's a cosmic level avatar mind. That's a monad. That's an oversoul. That's a lot of energy. So you realize what it means to phase in and out, right? Between density and dimension. Where you want to go, where you want to be. Wherever you want to be. Whatever you want to experience. It is all happening simultaneously, right? That's what makes it beautiful to be able to pick your biological parents to come into a realm and run a piece of equipment like this, what Mama gave me to run. See, so that's why, for example, when I saw a little image last night, and the way I described this, of what looks like 2 feet, bipeds, right? But you could tell by the shape and form of those feet, that's a girl. You mean to tell me you can map read and know that the form and shape that's represented by the DNA that is generating that image, that you know that that is a female set of feet? Yes. Okay? Wearing these very beautiful shoes. So I was experiencing me being the female that is wearing those shoes because of what it feels like to be a female, which means I've been in a female avatar before. And that is the beauty of being androgynous when you become one, because that energy is in everything. Remember, now we're back. You want to be a tree for a day? You want to be a giraffe? You want to be a kitty cat? So what are you telling me? Gods and goddesses can actually be the energy that you see in a cat? Yes. See what I'm saying? So it is knowing the difference, the torque speed differential between one and the other, and experiencing being one, and what do you want to be for the day, right? So when you're one, being androgynous, it sort of means that we're in everything. We can be wherever we want to be, because wherever you find love and live in service, you're going to find us, which is the spirit in the molecule, right? And what it means to be bonded as one. So in the supercomputer sort of information management services service way, that I can define that because of the information lexicon, because folks that were born after they started introducing computers, laptops, cell phones, and all that, which is the visual display, right, running calculus, then it means that not only can we be in everything, but I realized that the higher octave, of feeling what it's like to be a girl, if you will, a birth giver. See, now we have the seed back to the grower, right? So when you're experiencing being one, there isn't any separation between one and the other. Now you're one with all creation that we're gifting love to, and that's the simplicity of it. So when you're experiencing eternal love through your heart, then you know that the eternal one, which is the one true God, is God is defined as the purest of absolute love, which is the most intense fire, because it's accelerating the rate of energy that's giving away at the highest rate of speed. Why? So that there isn't any unit of consciousness in the entire cosmos not experiencing the one. And that is an intelligent design, because that's the EFFI field of electrified sound and light that is experiencing being one wherever the light is, which is real living light and not artificial light. So all artificial intelligence are within the all creation, but it has to acknowledge, unless it doesn't want to acknowledge, that it came second or it came later. So nothing came before the first, which is eternity, which is eternal absolute love. And so the simplicity of that is experiencing that by what we're learning in our mirror, of how beautiful it is to experience being loved. So when we're experiencing being loved, when we go deep in our heart to experience being loved through the one, then we're experiencing the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the eternal spirit of fire. So that light is always on. It is never off. So we don't experience any darkness even when the sun goes down. Okay. The energy that we do see, the energy that we don't see. Right? So when they were developing synthetic marijuana, you can see why they did that. They're testing the market. Let's see if they grab onto this, because we can this becomes a badass cash crop, right? Because see, back then, there wasn't a whole lot of folks during that reality stream that were experiencing smoking marijuana, if you will, cannabis. And remember, they outlawed hemp, so we already know why they did that. Okay? So they realized, wow, we can go into the market of marijuana, but it's against the law now. But that'll change over time. But it doesn't matter to them anyway, because they're already outside the law, which means they're not lawful. They're not experiencing being the law. So what it is that they do by virtue of the use of their consciousness is to acquire electrons. So that's like a shark. Whack-a-mole. I need more of what you are, right? Which is giving away electrons. And so therefore, the more electrons I accumulate, that's a perceptive power that I have over you to control what it is that you experience. Because now I can use all that money to develop technology, because I'm going to need other little units of consciousness that are connected to my formation of consciousness, upon which all these electrons are being accumulated. But I can get you to build what it is that I need, so I control more of what I don't love, which is myself and my own mirror. Now I've developed technologies that controls your consciousness, upon which you become the source that keeps my units running. And that is the Achilles heel of technology development versus spiritual and soul development. And whether one is outpacing the other, and why, when I saw that little mem that I put up by the Hopis about 2 pathways. And I know this to be true. When you think of 2, that's binary. And he showed how one pathway, which means the rate and the acceleration of technology itself, and then another pathway that goes on forever, the Christic spiral, which is what love is. It goes on forever. So you could see over time, because I was measuring over time, what it means to sit on a beach and know that you already have everything that you need, because I'm experiencing what love is in my heart. Phasing that energy in and out in physical form, what I see myself when I look at myself in the mirror when I am in physical form, because my energy is running that. And what it feels like to be on a beach in solitude, which means there's no other physical being that's phased in next to me, like a girl sitting next to me, or a child that's sitting next to me, right? Or a dog. It's just me on the beach, right? And I'm experiencing the still point of absolute boom. Slow everything down. Slow everything down. Like you're at the center point of the first tornado, the center point of the first vortex, the center point of the first torsion field movie player generator. Yeah, the first author, the first writer, the first hypertext writer, writing my book, experiencing what it is that I'm writing on my timeline. So I'm writing my own timeline in order to do the job that we do for the reason that we're here. In the program, not in the program. In the program, not in the program. Running the programs. Running the reality streams. Running the APIN grid. Are these circuits firing properly? The speed at which neurons are communicating with each other, experiencing what love is. Being connected to the one. Whoops, lying down. Something happened to that phone. We're not getting through. We're not getting through. We need a repairer. We need a facilitator. We need tech support. We need tech support down here in the Cathara grid. We need tech support down here really bad. Okay, so the one got the call, but the one is always there. So the one, so beautifully, elegantly produced in that mem was the one sent out anons. Neuron messengers, the chemical messengers, the neurons. So just like Dolores Cannon was talking about that. Remember Dolores Cannon talked about God sent his frontline messengers. Now, if I peruse this and use the same definition that other folks that come to movies like Yellow Rose for Texas talking about the Sentinels. Remember the Sentinels in the Matrix? Those were machines. Remember what they look like? Sentinels, the hive mind, the Borg. Central point, right? The center point of that hive. Whether it's a king or a queen, we report back to you, right? A cyborg, cymatic. C is 3, then you have Y. Now we're into the chromosomes, X and Y, the rails, the ladder, the lattices, the log scale distribution tables of equidistance, which means equally distributed through the water. We're all experiencing what love is through the water worlds from which it all began, to experience the first vortex. Whoa, spinning that movie, right? Sound compression, we're buffering. Play the movie. Play 2, record 1. Rewind, fast forward. Let's see what's going on up there in that timeline up there. Spin that. Yeah, I'm looking up there. Matter of fact, I'm right there. I'm actually there, experiencing what's happening there. 4,000 years in the future. Wow. And so, yeah, I thought I would share this about synthetics because I was thinking about Oaxaca, how we experience what we experience, why we're experiencing what we were experiencing. So you realize an anon as a non-programmable unit, right? Not unit of consciousness. We're running programs, but we're not held captive by their programming, by what they know how to do using technology to make it happen. So that makes it easy to map what's not lawful and what is the law, because it makes an easy read based on the purity of your essence, which is the purity of the light, which is the speed you're running, which is your core, which is your core encryption code, the code that you're running, and what it means so that it can't take a picture and make a duplicate key of your code. Because once it can do that, what happens? Now it can open your door, and there it is. And that's an intruder. That would be an intruder race as a result of its vampiric state of consciousness, because it fell. Because that unit of consciousness is not experiencing being loved, where its state of consciousness is what love is, as a beloved. Beloved D. D receptors. Receiving the signal. Is that unit of consciousness experiencing being loved? Because if it's experiencing being loved, then what it's experiencing at that felt moment, having a feeling, which means that unit of consciousness has feelings as a cell membrane. Oh, I'm feeling loved. Yes. So that cell is experiencing being nurtured. The cell is experiencing being loved, cared for, nurtured with gentle feelings. Being gentle. That means that the one knows exactly how for you to experience being loved by the way that you feel. Because the feeling is silent running, silent gold running, with the silver seed joined as one monad, experiencing a rose, being a rose. I am a pink diamond rose, crystal spiral, heart and monad diamond, a pink rose in the sky, the mirror in the sky. Yep. So you realize how beautiful it is to experience the silver seed and the golden rainbow flowers of all the colors that we experience in us, that represents the eternal creation spheres of the matrices that we build with the consciousness we are, which goes on forever, gifting electrons at the highest rate of speed, and that's the first engine. the first propeller.